Let's welcome Wayne Holton. Hello, Wayne.
Hi Judith, how are you? It's good to catch up again.
Yeah, always good to have you. And what actually fascinates me about you is your life and all the things that have happened to you, which has made you who you are. So let's go from the very start. Talk about the time where you were flying a plane.
It was interesting. I worked for a company that had um, um, sites all over South Australia, and so I was asked if, while I was passenger in the plane, whether I'd like to fly it and sort of thing. So, holding the controls and keeping it all on the keeping it from falling out of the sky was an interesting experience. So I suppose that adventure piece is always nice to be able to have that thing where give it a go. Why not?
Fascinated with your change thing that you bring to the table and all the other aspects of change as well. So, what actually led you to take a career in ERP?
Well, it's a few years ago. I took up I owned a business, and I was I didn't know how to run a business, so I took on a coach to actually help me understand the business, and from that I understood how I could go from being a person in a functional role in a business to actually being a manager, growing a business, being a director, running all of those things. By helping people understand what they need to do, change becomes very easy. For me, I'm a very difficult person to learn unless I see it and I can actually appreciate it. And I saw that I could do it, and all of the people that were working in my organization at the time could do the same thing. And so now I apply that now. So if someone needs to learn something different or do something, if they become part of what we need to do, then change is so much easier than just saying, well, here we go, I'm going to change you. And so I've adopted that in everything I do now, where if I can see it, if I can show it, if I can explain it, and I can actually demonstrate it, then people are much, much easier to understand why we're doing what we're doing, and then want to be involved. And so that's the good part. They then become involved in it.
I have personally worked with you and seen the impact that you create. Like you light up people's eyes, help them understand the why, as you say, and then everything somehow magically comes together. Or, you're rightly to be called the digital transformation whisperer. So, what's the story behind you taking up a career in change and then bringing it all together?
Well, it's funny. I have an ability to be able to see um, often more than other people see. So I can sort of, and I describe it as being, some people I can see a two lines on a page, and I see a picture, whereas many people they need to see the whole picture, colored in. They need to see everything. And so for that, it's about saying, well, if I can see what it is, it's me taking people on that journey to actually uncover that and create that picture for themselves. And so that's why change has always been fascinating for me, because the ability to be able to do something way before someone else can see it, before anything is really tangible and real, is important for me to be able to say, okay, well, now let's unpack that and see what that looks like, and create that vision. So it becomes something which at the end of the day, they believe they've created, which they have fully, but I always had that vision that was there. And so I suppose that's one of those things why change becomes, I'll not say natural, but it's I find that taking people through that change is what happens. And it's, and that's the eventuality of it. And so whether it's things they've never done before, whether it's new concepts, whether it's different ways of working, whether it's seeing things in a different light, doing that allows them to see it differently and think differently. And so for me, it's engaging what we call a thinking system. The thinking system, if you actually start to think about things instead of just react or do, then you actually become much more informed about do. So that's how I suppose I coined that thing of thinking system, is what I try and help people through with change.
Yeah, and this thinking system, as you say, is so powerful, right?
Well, for me, like I say, it's that thing. There's some things you just go, well, coming from a world of problem solving, in my mind, I go through all the different things it could be, and then look at the logical thing in my mind that it could be. And so that's where often people get the thing of saying, well, how'd you come up with that? Because I've already done all of those things of what possibly could have happened to cause that. And then that's where I start that, the most logical. And then we work back. Not always that's the case, but most times having thought it through and thinking, well, these are the sort of things that it would change. These are the circumstances that happened. Let's start here because, that's a great starting point and we'll see how we go. And in that case, our starting point was, how many years has this been happening?
So for the audience listening to it, Wayne, me, and another colleague of us, we uncovered $1 billion, and we are going to do a real case study on how we went about it. So that'll be in a separate episode. And coming back to this episode where, Wayne's thinking. So Wayne, you also have the ability to predict asset life or assets in the whole bunch of things and when things need to be replaced and all those stuff. And please share a bit of insight on that, because as a world, we know we are struggling with that, aging assets and all those challenges.
Yeah, it's interesting with assets. Everything has a life, and I suppose I look at my age now, and I've got a lot more aching bones and things than I would have had when I was younger. And so fitness and being able to do things is often something you can predict by what's happening. And so if you can see things that are happening over time, you then can start to predict how long they're going to continue behaving that way before they go to fail. And the good part is you can often work out what you need to do before they fail, because the world that we live in at the moment is we rely on the fact that we want things to be high availability, high utilization. We don't want them to fail. And if we have the problem where they do fail, then it's catastrophic as such, or it's high cost. And so about saying, okay, how is it performing? Are we overloading it? Are we changing it? Are we doing something that shouldn't happen? And then monitoring that. And when we see a change, we can start to then go, well, we need to act now and make sure that we're either going to fix that in a time that's suitable, so it's not a high cost situation, and work that way. And so asset management becomes something of monitoring performance, but also then reacting before failure happens. And so that's what I approach, working as I have in the mining industry, work in the utilities, all of those sort of things. They are mechanical pieces of equipment. And so you can actually, if you take a step back and monitor, you can actually predict things. Whereas we're very much on this thing, we do lots of inspections, we do all those sorts of things, but an inspection is really only someone's view at the time. And sometimes it's an arbitrary estimate. You've actually got the facts on what it's performing like, you can't really know. And so we spend a lot of time wasting our time on inspections at a very close frequency, when really if we monitored and we had something that was tangible data, then we could actually use it to actually plot its performance and its life and how long it's going to last before it fails.
And this brings us to a good segue, right? So coming back to digital transformation, for most of us, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to navigate. And also it creates a whole bunch of opportunity, as you say, in assets. You look at assets with a completely new life. You look at the way you maintain with a completely new life and all that. So in your opinion, what sort of opportunity does it bring to the table, which did not exist or could not exist years back?
Well, I think the big thing that is really interesting opening up is the power of technology has grown to the point where we can actually check and monitor, which happens in the background. Whereas in the past, what we've done is send someone out to check it. We've brought it in to do a service, we've had to actually spend time and effort to actually do that. And in that creates work orders, it creates all those sorts of things that happen in your ERP system. Whereas if you're actually monitoring the system and you actually see an abnormal thing starting to happen, then you can actually set the technology up to then create the work order and then you attend to that. So you imagine how much time you actually save, time and effort you save from going out and just checking something and finding nothing wrong, to actually acting on something that you see is a bit abnormal and then starting to work on what you need to do to plan to actually rectify this impending issue, if it is an issue, sort of thing. So that's the opportunity, the ways of working and the savings that can be attained. It's instead of just doing work to inspect them and do all those things that we've done for many, many years because we had nothing to support us in a different way. And I think that's the opportunity that I see, especially in asset management. It's something that really presents a real opportunity to be able to save the cost of managing assets, but still maintaining the high availability of those assets.
And this brings again a whole new spectrum of things that weren't available to us before, right? So that we have the technology there, we have the information there, and we also have the people with a lot more knowledge to be able to do what needs to be done. So
exactly right. And Judith, you raise a good point in the sense that there are people that have been in these businesses that have done that, but usually on spreadsheets. And so their ability to be able to go back and interrogate that information or capture it or analyze it has been really challenged. I don't think the market seems as advanced as it should be in that area to actually say, well, here's what we need to do. We've focused more on IT instead of understanding what's the information we get from our operational equipment, and then we actually use the IT to address and manage that. And I think that's the difference that no one seems to be managing in this space when we talk about utilities, mining, oil and gas, any of those sorts of industry players.
Yeah, and that's the paradigm that we all need to tap into, right? So it's like we've got the technology, we know what to do. So now let's bring it together, because what it means is savings on many other things, including informed decision making and enriching the organization with that information. So how powerful we are as as this generation, and we can leave a legacy for our next generation.
Well, that's right. And we talk about digital transformation, and unfortunately, many times organizations get caught in the fact of updating their IT systems as such, so their SAPs, their Oracles, their whatever. But they are really just the pieces of equipment that allow you to act. They shouldn't only be the digital transformation. It should be, how do we get this information so that we actually get what the IT system will allow us to do: create a work order, create a notification, charge an asset, order materials, those sorts of things, which is all of I suppose it's all the back office stuff that needs to happen to rectify something. But what we're feeding it with is still the old manual way of doing an inspection, or we haven't got to that point where we are informing the IT system, which can then create a work order for us to go and act. We're actually still trying to do far more than it's capable of doing. And so the discussion needs to be much wider than just putting in SAP or putting in Oracle or those sort of things. It's saying, okay, how do we feed SAP or Oracle or whatever system to actually give it the information so we can then do those transactions we need to do to rectify, to order parts, to maintain things, to do those sort of things, which is probably only really 20% of what an asset-intensive organisation needs to do, whereas we try and make it 80%, and that's where a lot of the complexity comes in organisations. Is they try and make it happen in the IT system way more than the IT system can cope with. So the complexity gets so hard, and that's why the shift to S4 and the shift to Oracle Cloud and those sort of IT systems is difficult, because we're making it more than it needs to be. And so it's that paradigm shift, as you say. You need to step back at the strategy level and go, okay, how do we actually work our business and operate our business today, knowing what we know about technology? How do we bring all of that together? Then just go, well, we'll put SAP or Oracle or whatever in, and then all of a sudden it hasn't worked for us, and we've got this big disaster and everyone's still working on spreadsheets over on the other side of the world, sort of thing. So it's really about taking that step back and saying, well, as an organisation, it's not about buying software. It's about, how do we want to operate as an organisation to do what we do best? And that I think is where we haven't really embraced digital transformation in those asset type industries.
And if you're an asset industry professional watching this, you might be wondering what paradigm this unearths, or what it actually means, because the opportunity that you have here is kind of once in a century. We could do many things with technology on assets that we were ever able to do before. So this, gives you a whole new dimension to work with. So now, Wayne, tell us about your business. What does your business actually do?
My business is about helping people with that strategy, and especially in the field of asset type or manufacturing type businesses, where for them to be able to reduce their cost of operating is about maintaining their assets better, using people where they're needed, not have people just there for the sake of doing that. And so that advisory piece is very much building a digital strategy, working with that. The other piece that I also do is help organizations say, well, what should I be buying? So functional architecture. What should I actually be buying to actually address this problem? So if I'm going to do a once in a century shift, many times it's 20 odd or 30 odd years people have had a ERP system and are now changing their whole business. Let's reset that completely to actually take us through to the next 20 years. And whereas what often we do is we just try and replace what we have and make it as good as what we think we had it. And so it's about that functional architecture. What do we really need? How do we actually bring all of that together to actually work functionally for our business? And then, and that's a big part of it, because all of a sudden people then go, okay, I'm not just buying an ERP, I'm actually buying an instance where I might have a data lake in there that needs to actually access or source information, which I could then configure my ERP to act on that information. So it's a whole different shift about how you think about your digital platform than just saying, well, I buy that, and then they don't work together and give them frustration many times because we spent so much money without achieving any real value or savings that the business case might have been looking for. So it's about taking that step back and looking at it differently about what we need to achieve what we want and get those operational efficiencies that, if we're going to spend 100,000, 200,000, 800 million, whatever we're going to spend on an ERP system, then how do we actually get that money back? Because it's all money we've spent, isn't it? We need to get it back.
It's money.
Yes, that's right.
And the world needs it. So,
yes.
Yeah. And again, for audience, this is a paradigm shift. So either way, you're going to invest. So digital transformation comes with a lot of investment, comes with a lot of time and a lot of commitment. All we recommend is that you use it in the way that works for you. So if you're in the asset industry, asset is your primary breadwinner. So make sure you look after it and make sure it is working for you. And you have the strategy to support it for the next 50, 60, whatever number of years you want your business to exist. So, Wayne, how can, in what ways can you help the business or asset industries, and how can the audience reach out to you?
So anybody who's thinking of upgrading, and at the moment we know that SAP is coming end of life. There's a number of Microsoft Great Plains is coming end of life. We look at some of the Oracle. JD Edwards is coming to its end of its life of software. And so everybody is faced with this thing of, I have to shift to a new software platform. So if you're thinking of that as an organization, then take the first step and actually reach out and have that and get someone in who can actually have those discussions, walk you through what are you looking for, how do I want to operate, what's this new world give to me. Give that as the basis of what your starting point is. Because if you start down the road of just buying an ERP, you might find that you've then got to buy a whole lot more software to actually try and address what the software you've purchased doesn't do. And so that's a great starting point for any organization who's embarking on spending a lot of money within the next, if we look at it, the deadline is 2027, I think, for SAP to actually end support. of ECC6, and so it's not far away. It's only, if you think we're in 2024 now, so and getting near the end of 2024, and typically a transformation takes 3 to 4 to 5 years, sort of thing, to actually get it fully complete and implemented. So if you've got those thoughts now, reach out. I think that's the best. It's the best money you will ever spend to be able to uncover the questions that you have, get answers to the questions that you have, and actually present yourself very direction. So then you can systematically work through every one of those new digital platforms that you're putting in, make the right purchases that you need to do, whether it's cloud purchases, whether it's the type of cloud you're looking for, it's how you set up your databases, all of those sorts of things. That's the ideal point for coming in and speaking to my organization and such. And you can contact me on Trusted Advisory Assurance consulting.com. I know that's a mouthful, but the key thing is about getting trust, and it's about having someone who can answer those questions. Often we find that those questions are really, the answers that come out of there are very, very powerful, and they drive success no matter who goes on to implement the system. And I think that's the important thing, is if you've got those answers, you've got that direction, you've got some clarity, all of a sudden your pathway forward becomes a lot less risky. And so that's the best way. And catching up with our organisation, we can talk about what opportunities you have.
And thank you, Wayne. And for audience, please feel free to reach out to me or to Wayne, and you'll see the comments in the show notes, and you can reach out to both of us. One thing that I can tell you about what you have as an opportunity is, if you want to shift the paradigm thinking and get the value of your assets with the technology that's available, look no further. So this is one place where you can go to and talk to Wayne, get that perspective, and then you can get access to multiple other people that we or others know in the network who will be able to help you as well. So it's a wealth of knowledge and wealth of information, and you have tapped into something beautiful. So continue following us, and there is a lot more experts that we will meet in this series. And thank you for listening. And thank you, Wayne, for being part of this.
Thank you, Judith. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.